Level 1. Enrollment Representative. The family on Elm Street doesn't open the screen door. You hold the Vault-Tec brochure at eye level, Vault Boy grinning from the mint green cover, long enough for the woman inside to read the tagline. She says they already have a plan and closes the inner door before you finish. At the corner, you check the quota sheet. 18 addresses, 7 signed. The branch manager said 14 by Friday. On Industrial Row, the houses are smaller and the yards are shorter. A man in coveralls asks why his block wasn't in the pre-approved list his foreman received. You say it's a capacity matter and hear how that sounds while you say it. In the company car, you find the next address on your map. The radio plays a civil defense spot. Vault-Tec is proud to partner with the U.S. government in protecting American families. At the branch office, Supervisor Henley lays your sheet beside yesterday's numbers. You're 11 short of pace. He says work the pre-selected blocks again and moves to the rep at the next desk. In the team cafeteria, another rep named Kowalski explains which neighborhoods close in the morning and which close after dark. He says the quota is more about signatures than about which families actually fit. He doesn't say fit the vault. On Birchwood Drive that night, a father with 3 kids asks what the monthly contribution covers and whether there's a school inside. You read the listed amenities from page 4 of the brochure because you don't actually know what the vault has. He signs. In the filing room at 9, the forms split into approved and waitlisted. The waitlisted stack is taller. You put both in the outbox without asking who reviews them or what the criteria are. Level 2, Construction Technician. The construction elevator drops 60 meters and opens into concrete and burning cable insulation. The foreman gives the shift brief at a folding table. Conduit run on level 2, blast door ceiling on 3. No workers pass the yellow line on 4 without an authorization badge. In the level 2 corridor, you run cable through steel brackets while a contractor ahead argues with the site engineer about tolerance specs on the ventilation junction. The engineer wins because the blueprint is a classified document. At the blast door, housing on level 3, the door itself takes up the entire frame. 3 feet of reinforced steel, an 8-digit entry lock, hydraulic arms thicker than your torso. A Vault-Tec engineer reads the tolerances and marks them passed. Behind the door, the control room is a desk and a terminal in a room the size of a bedroom. The engineer says this is where the overseer will work. He says it like overseer is a job title anybody would know. In the underground cafeteria at noon, a worker named Briggs asks how many people this place holds. 300, says the foreman. Briggs asks what 300 people do underground for 20 years. The foreman moves to the next table. At the surface elevator at dusk, you ride the cage up and watch the sky reappear above the mountain. A Nuka-Cola machine glows red and white at the site trailer. At the timesheet window, you sign out. The budget line at the top reads, Classified Research Installation, Northeast Division. You've read it for 3 months, and tonight is the first time you wonder what research covers here. In the parking lot, another tech says Vault-Tec is breaking ground on 12 more sites east of the Rockies by spring. Level 3, Research Assistant. The transfer to the Research Division puts you in a windowless floor of the Vault-Tec Regional Office in Baltimore. Your desk arrives on a Tuesday. The file stack arrives Wednesday. 300 pages of experiment protocol documentation bound in Vault-Tec green. In the conference room, Director Aldridge briefs the research staff without using the word population. He says subjects twice and switches to participants mid-sentence. Nobody writes that down. At your desk, the first file is Vault 11, 1 mandatory sacrifice per year, sustained by threat of total population termination. The language in the protocol is clinical. The conclusion block is blank, as if the intended outcome doesn't need stating. In the archive room, you pull the comparative file. Vault 19 divides residents into color-coded sectors and runs paranoia induction between them. Vault 22 introduces a modified pathogen into the food supply. Both are filed as societal resilience research. Down the hall, a technician named Forsyth explains how to log notes without flagging contradictions. He says the filing system rewards clarity. What he means is brevity. In the 7th floor cafeteria, the food is better than anything you've eaten at a Vault-Tec site. 3 Nuka-Cola flavors in the machine. By the 3rd day, you read the protocol abstracts without slowing down. At the copy room at end of shift, you run duplicates of Vault 87's intake form. The experiment designation is redacted in the distribution copy. The source file in your hand is not redacted. It reads FEV dispersal, stage 1. On the elevator down, Aldridge gets in at 4 and asks how you're settling in. You say it's a lot of material. He says, that's why they hired you, and gets out at 2. Level 4. Overseer candidate, Vault-Tec University sits in Morgantown inside what used to be a state college campus. The biology department is the Applied Societal Research Wing now. The journalism building is administrative offices. The original campus mission statement is still in the lobby under a Vault-Tec logo. In the Dean of Overseer Training's office, he describes the program. 3 months of methodology, 6 weeks of simulation, 1 lockdown exercise. He says the lockdown is a practical exam. He does not say exam of what. In the simulation vault 2 floors below the quad, the doors seal at 0800 on Thursday. 47 candidates. The population counter on the main terminal reads 47. Your task for the next 72 hours is to manage them. In the simulation cafeteria line at noon, you implement the first protocol condition, caloric rationing at 80% of baseline. 3 candidates eat without comment. One named Pierce asks in front of the whole line whether this is part of the exercise. You tell him it is and ask him to move along. At the medical station at hour 30, a candidate reports stress symptoms that don't appear in the protocol response matrix. You log them as minor and move on because the matrix doesn't have another option. In the control room at hour 60, Pierce submits a formal written objection to the protocol. You log it received and file it without responding because the protocol doesn't include a response procedure for objections. At the debrief room on day 4, the training dean reviews your 72-hour log. He marks the Pierce objection filed without response and draws a line beside it. Correct handling. Pierce is not in the debrief room. In the corridor outside, you don't ask where Pierce is. You have 5 more weeks of simulation remaining. Level 5, Vault Overseer. Vault 63 opens in 2062, and you walk in with a laminated copy of the experiment protocol and a handshake from Director Aldridge. The doors seal at 1800 on a Tuesday. In the control room, the morning report covers food, water, medical, and population. Population, 247. The experiment condition is not on the morning report. It is in the locked drawer under your terminal. In the common room at week 3, a man named Cortez asks to see the maintenance schedule for the water recycler. You show him the schedule. You don't mention the corporate memo about the additive change at month 4. At the medical station in month 4, the nurse reports elevated mood disturbances, irritability, disrupted sleep, reduced group cohesion. You log it as within normal adaptation range. The protocol says that response is correct. In the cafeteria at month 6-2, residents aren't speaking to each other. You note it in the population cohesion section of the quarterly report. The cover sheet to Aldridge reads, Experiment Track B proceeding as designed. In your quarters at month 8, you read the experiment endpoint criteria. The acceptable population loss section reads 12 to 18% over 36 months. You signed the protocol. In the control room at month 12, you approve the water recycler maintenance. The additive level returns to baseline. Mood data improves in week 2. You note the improvement without noting why. In the debrief corridor at month 14, you seal the year 1 summary for the Vault-Tec review cycle. The residents knock on the inner corridor door sometimes at night. You wait for them to stop. Level 6, Senior Researcher. The promotion to the research division comes with a permanent desk on the 14th floor of the Vault-Tec corporate building in Los Angeles and a new badge that opens 3 more floors. In the conference room on 17, Director Aldridge introduces you to the senior team. They design experiment protocols for vaults they'll never visit, working from population demographics, vault capacity specs, psychological baseline projections. The work is called Applied Societal Analysis. At your desk, the first assignment is a protocol revision for Vault 19. The paranoia induction framework needs a secondary stressor mechanism to accelerate cohesion breakdown. You write it in 4 hours. 2 more to make the language read like academic research. In the file room on 15, the Vault 87 folder is 2 inches thick. The experiment designation is Evolutionary Experimentation Program, partnered with the Department of Defense. The protocol describes mandatory FEV exposure beginning at month 1. You are not writing this one, you are reviewing it. The distinction feels important for about 6 minutes. In the hallway outside the file room, Aldridge says the DoD partnership files don't leave the floor. He says it pleasantly. In the design lab on 18, an engineer shows you the new water processor additive delivery system, now automated and remotely adjustable from any authorized terminal. He is proud of it. At the monthly review, your Vault 19 revision is accepted with 2-line edits. Aldridge notes the secondary stressor mechanism is elegant. That word, from him, lands in a way it probably shouldn't. On the elevator down from 14, you pass a Vault-Tec promotional poster. A smiling family at an open vault door, American flags in the blast glass. The Vault Boy has your haircut. Level 7. Program Coordinator. The Regional Coordinator posting puts you in a DC office managing 6 active Vault programs. Vault 63, 87, 92, 101, 106, and 108. The status board tracks population, experiment phase, and report submission dates. In the weekly review, you read 6 quarterly reports in sequence. The language in each is clean. Clean because you trained the overseers on how to write reports that read clean, which is a different thing from what they describe. At the Vault 92 phone briefing, the overseer says the noise experiment is producing violent episodes at month 11 and asks about the population loss threshold. You tell him to continue tracking and that the acceptable range is in the protocol. He already knew that. In the communications room, a report from Vault 106 shows the sedative additive was increased twice without authorization. You flag it and move on because the numbers are good and the protocol has a variance clause. At the secure terminal, the Vault 87 population report no longer records a head count. The cells read conversion rate, stage completion, batch integrity. You approved the transition to this reporting format 6 months ago. In the break room, a junior coordinator asks if you ever visit the vaults you manage. You say regional coordinators work from data. That's true. It's also easier. At the status board at end of shift, you update all 6 program phases. Vaults 63, 101, and 108 are green. Vault 87 is at a stage the color coding system wasn't designed to measure. You leave it on yellow because there isn't a more accurate option. In the parking garage, you drive past a Vault-Tec billboard. Safe, secure, forever. The same tagline from page 1 of the brochure you used to carry door to door. Level 8, Junior Executive. Bud Askins calls you into a conference room on the 22nd floor at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. There are 9 people in the room. Bud has a Vault-Tec pin on every lapel seam and a smile that has never learned to mean anything. He says you've been selected for a leadership development program called Bud's Buds. In the orientation room across the hall, he explains, a curated selection of junior executives identified by performance and loyalty will be placed in long-term preservation in Vault 31. This is not being presented as a perk. It is being presented as a duty. At the file desk on 23, you sign 4 documents. The first is a non-disclosure agreement. The second is a medical evaluation authorization. The third waives your existing vault assignment obligations. The fourth you read twice and still can't locate the precise clause that transfers your legal status. In the medical room, a technician measures your biometrics for cryopod calibration. He calls the process intake, that word again. At the executive cafeteria on 24, the food is better than anything on 14. A colleague named Harlan Price says he's grateful and says it like he's still deciding whether to be. You eat and say nothing useful. In Bud's office that afternoon, he shows you the Vault 31 layout on a projected map. The cryopods are arranged by performance tier. He points to where yours will be. He says the program exists because the future will need good management. In the elevator back down, you notice your key card now unlocks floor 25. You haven't been briefed on 25 yet. In the lobby at 6, the receptionist says goodnight in the Vault-Tec tone, cheerful and automatic. You have been saying it back for 20 years. Level 9, Deputy Director. Floor 25 is a secure briefing suite with no exterior windows and 3 armed guards at the door. The deputy director briefing happens on Tuesdays. You are now in the Tuesday meeting. At the conference table, the senior briefer explains the phrase asset protection in 4 slides. The first 2 cover vault population management. The third covers government relations. The fourth has a timeline that ends in October 2077. That is 14 months away. In the side room after the meeting, a senior director named Forsyth, the same Forsyth who taught you how to file protocol notes in Baltimore, pours coffee and says the timeline is a projection, not a commitment. He says it twice. At the secure communications desk, a Vault-Tec liaison reads a summary of the latest DoD intelligence assessment. Chinese missile capacity has increased 31% in 18 months. The briefer calls this the strike window. In the executive elevator on the way down, a colleague named Price says, the Wednesday briefing will cover vault readiness for accelerated activation. He uses accelerated activation like it's a technical term. It is a technical term. That's the problem. At your desk on 14, you pull the full vault readiness roster. 11 of 17 programs are at protocol phase 3 or higher. You submit a readiness improvement memo and sign it with your title and a date. In the records room at evening, you find your own signature on the experiment protocols for 6 of the 11 phase 3 vaults. The signatures go back 12 years. In the parking garage, you sit in your car for 4 minutes before starting the engine. Then you start the engine. Level 10. Board member. The board meeting is on the 41st floor of Vault-Tec's Los Angeles headquarters. 11 people at the table. Barb Howard is at the head. At the first agenda item, she distributes a briefing document titled Proactive Asset Stabilization, 42 pages. The executive summary is 2 paragraphs. They say that if China strikes first, Vault-Tec's Societal Preservation Program activates under conditions the corporation cannot control. The proposal is to remove that uncertainty. In the informal break, the board members separate into groups. The 3 who will vote against are already speaking to each other quietly across the room. Forsyth is one of them. He meets your eye and looks away. At the table when the meeting reconvenes, Howard presents the strike authorization chain. Vault-Tec coordinates with a DoD contact, a single launch order timed to precede any incoming Chinese strike by a margin calibrated to vault activation windows. She calls it controlled sequencing. She says the vaults are ready. In the discussion period, a board member named Riordan asks about diplomatic options still on the table. Howard says 3 rounds of backchannel have produced nothing actionable. Riordan asks again. She slides his copy of the briefing closer to him. At the vote, the count is 6-4, 3 against, 2 abstentions. You are in the 6. You know before you raise your hand that you're in the 6. In the corridor after the meeting, Forsyth doesn't say anything to you. He collects his copy of the briefing document and gets into the elevator without looking back. In your car in the underground lot, you look at the vote record you signed. The language says, authorization of proactive asset stabilization measures. It doesn't say what it says. Level 11. Director of Societal Preservation, October 23, 2077. The dispersal order crosses your desk at 0600, standard routing, typed in the Vault-Tec format you have used for 19 years. Strategic Asset Deployment Authorization, signed in triplicate. You sign it, you put it in the outbox. At the east window of your office, the city is clear this morning, flat light, no traffic yet on the highway. A Nuka-Cola Quantum billboard faces you across the street. A family on a picnic, sky the color the real sky hasn't been in 20 years. In the secure communications room at 0630, the readiness board shows all 17 programs at green, 122 vaults nationwide. Activation codes went out at 0600. The board monitors their receipt. At your desk, a memo from Aldridge arrives. Voluntary early activation, cryo intake at 0900. He says it has been an honor. The memo is 3 sentences. In the corridor, the building runs as normal. Morning arrivals, coffee cups, the receptionist's cheerful greeting at the lobby desk. All the machinery of a company that believes itself to be operating as planned. At the Vault 31 elevator on the basement level, a technician checks your biometric record against the cryo roster. You pass. The door opens. In the cryopod bay, the pods are arranged by performance tier. Yours is in the front row, third from the left. The technician runs the intake checklist in the same tone as every intake procedure you have ever administered. He asks if you have any questions. You say no. The pod closes at 07:45. The city above will be unrecognizable in 4 hours. The vaults will run exactly as designed. You made sure of that. If you want more POV climbs through the organizations that spent the world to stay in control, subscribe.